Hello and welcome to Rise Above the Grind. I am your hostess, Alissa Bickar, the consultress, bringing you cutting edge conversations from entrepreneurs who are out there doing the thing of creating real value, real time in today's age of disruption. Today, we have Romaine Wright, who is a team alignment strategist who brings culture in companies together in a very intentional way so people work better and get better results. So, Romaine, it is a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Just Right. It's Just Right Consulting, LLC. Just there's the plug.
Mhm.
We start these conversations off with, what does the word grind mean to you? Like, how does that definition show up in your world? And give us a little insight into how you think about it.
Yeah, I was preparing for this question, and I want to start by saying that I am a huge believer in our ability to shape our world by our thoughts and beliefs, and that much of what we think and believe doesn't come from us, right? It's stuff that we're taught, and it's ways that we've been guided to interpret our experiences. So, taking that into consideration, when I think about the grind, it's actually for me an illusion. It's not real, right? It's this idea that if we want to achieve success, we have to work really hard because life is hard. If you haven't reached the level of success that you aspire to, you have to work harder. But if we kind of step back and look objectively at the landscape of our marketplace and the our society, that doesn't always match, right? And so for me, the grind, I love the fact that every time you ask this question, you get a different answer because it really is up to interpretation because it's this kind of ambiguous thing that really doesn't have a value or meaning unless we apply it to it. So again,
Hmm.
it's an illusion to me. And it's what I choose to make it and how I choose to allow my work to play a role in my life.
Oof. I mean, let's just like hug that definition right there. Like the illusion that we tell ourselves it has to be hard and it has to suck in order to get through to whatever other side we're imagining that we're on the grass that isn't greener side of. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And I love that it's very apparent that we are in a day and age, especially now that like all of our assumptions are being challenged. Like we get to define and have responsibility for the terms that we use and how we apply those terms to our life and how we apply those terms to our work. So I love what you said about making it a choice about how you define what it is that you're what investing your focus in. That's really what came forward to me as you were describing what it is that it meant to you. So being that we are in this slippery slope age of like words that take on new meanings, and we actually have the choice, the authority, the power to give it meaning. Do you find that there are other words or other spaces where this kind of choice is more important to acknowledge that you have to make now, whether that shows up in your work or in your life at large? Where are there opportunities for people to redefine how they're looking at something?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I primarily work with, as I mentioned earlier, startups and new teams and often new leaders because often new entrepreneurs are new leaders, right? They've actually never been in a leadership or people management role. And I find that when I do coaching with new entrepreneurs and startups, they are in that very space, right? It's like, what does this all mean? What does it mean to be a CEO? What does it mean to be a leader? What do I want to impart into my team as we define what our mission and our values are? And even if we have values listed and they're on paper, what does it really mean to demonstrate honesty, transparency, and all the buzzwords that we see corporations often use when they talk about their mission and the work that they do? But what does it mean in practice? All of that is the space to redefine it both for your company, for yourself, And then if you want to give the space for people on your team to define what that means to them in their role, that's a great place to come from as well.
So it's kind of like there's so many questions. They are seeking to create definitions. And sometimes what I found in startup mode, even for myself, every time I've pivoted into a new business model or into a new marketplace, like there's always things that are up for redefinition. And so in the startup space that you work in, because there's so much that needs to be hammered down, how do you help people get like a priority? How do you help them get a pulse on what's most important as they are, building this whole thing? Rome wasn't built in a day. So, is there a mechanism or a process that helps people kind of wrap their brains around where do I start with this definition and bringing forth how I'm creating this meaning in this company?
Yeah, so I use what I call the CAP model when I work with my clients. It stands for clarify, align, perform. And so what we're talking about right now is the clarify stage, and it's clarifying all of that, but it also is building some self-awareness. So I have them do personality assessments and really do some assessment of their own work style, their strengths, their challenges. I don't like to say weaknesses necessarily, but the areas where they could use some improvement. And then we really dig into the culture of their business as well, because what I find again is these, and why I do this work is because startups are knee deep in the product and service, but they don't think about this part of the work until afterwards. It's like, oh, I'm hiring some people and now I've got to tell them this is what my company does and this is what it's like to work here. And they've never thought about it before. Right. And so I take a lot of, if I can catch them early enough, we do that from the beginning, but often they're already, hitting the ground and running. And so we've got to step back and gain clarity about all the things. And like I said, I use a couple of different tools with them, and, helping them start with that self-awareness and
Mhm.
then extending it to their business and then extending it to their team.
So I'm going to flip this up on its head because clarify is first and then align and then perform. Uh, you find people, and this I've known to be true for myself, who are doing it backwards. They're
Mhm.
performing and they're stuck in the mud, or they're spinning their wheels, or they're grinding it out.
Mhm.
How do you recognize that you're in that space and you need to start thinking about it differently? Like, can you give us a case study or an example of someone or some business that is, kind of upside down in that thinking, and maybe grinding their business to a halt even?
Yeah, I've got the perfect example. So I was asked to come in and do a culture workshop with a team. And I was fortunate to actually have the entire workforce participate in this. So everyone from the CEO down was required to be a part of this full day training. And in this training, we started to dig into what are the things that are part of how they want to move forward. What are the things that have been that aren't necessarily working, and how they want to redefine how they work for the next generation, because they're a company that, or that particular company has a lot of their senior leaders have been there from the beginning and they're about to retire, right? So they're trying to plan ahead. What we ultimately figured out, even though this company's been operating for 20 plus years, is similar to what I said earlier. Everyone knew what the values were. Everyone had a different interpretation of what they meant,
So
right?
nobody's on the same page. All the
Nobody.
horses are going in a different direction, and the cart in the
Mhm.
middle is starting to fall apart. Got it.
Exactly.
Proceed.
Exactly, right. And it's about 30, 35 people in this room, and everyone's got their own interpretation of what these values mean in practice in their role. And so, what they ultimately agreed to do at the end was to come up with a rewards program where they had a committee that would define what those values were in practice, and then start to acknowledge and reward team members as they demonstrated them in their actual positions so that there could be continual, not just understanding, but reinforcement of what it really looks like to demonstrate those values.
Oh, I freaking love this. So experientially, instead of continuing to grind and hit the wall and draw and quarter the business, people were tasked with interpreting the words and seeing what existing culture was there that they liked, that was rewarding, and
Mm,
then to reinforce it outside of that, to be able to catch people doing the right thing. I mean, often our brains are wired, right, to always find the what's wrong. We could see 99 things that are great and one thing that's wrong, and our attention immediately goes to that one thing. But I love the system that you're describing here that they set up was to catch people doing it right and to create a system of reinforcement that said, yeah, that's it. That's an example. So now they
mhm,
know experientially, not just intellectually, what that value is in practice. And I
mhm,
think, just to bring the conversation full circle, it's what we experience as individuals when we're on course or off course. If we are grinding it out and feeling miserable, like that is a signal that something is not aligned. Maybe we need
mhm,
more clarity as to how to behave or train our focus in a way that allows us to really pay attention to the things that matter, that make a difference to us, that are meaningful to us. And in this age of disruption, like there is no predetermined prescription of any definition of any kind. And it can be disorienting because now there are so many unknowns. There are so many things to figure out, just like you said about the business that's in startup mode and they have to figure out, everything. They have to build all the trees from the ground up. But it doesn't have to be disorienting. It's like pick a North Star, pick something that's meaningful, reinforce it, practice it a little bit, and then continue to grow. We were in the green room just before this at about our culture that has a little bit of, what did you call it? Urgency addiction. I
yeah.
found myself in
Yeah.
that place of being addicted to like everything has to be built right now.
Mhm.
But we are in an age where literally at the click of a button or a prompt, we can build things out. But if we're not clear and we're not aligned with what is meaningful and what is progressive, we're building the wrong things and then we're wasting our effort. So I want to thank you for being here with us to kind of workshop this conversation in a new and meaningful way because there's a million ways to slice this. And I love that your perspective starts with aligning a team, a collective, an idea that everybody can buy into and then put into practice. So when people are looking for you out there in the world and want to engage your services, what's the best way people can find you?
Sure. So I am on LinkedIn most most often. So you can find me search by my name Romaine Wright or actually Team Alignment Strategist. So when you put in that URL that we all have for LinkedIn and then you got the hash at the end, mine is Team Dash Alignment Dash Strategist. So that goes straight to my page. I also am on Instagram. My podcast has an Instagram page and it is found at Founder Culture Podcast. So those are the best ways to find me.
Yeah, be the founder, make your culture, Founder Culture podcast. I love it. And so, Romaine, thanks a million for being here with us and for kind of opening up the inquiry that anything's possible. The more questions we ask, the better it is and the better it can become. And in today's age of high unknowns, but also high propensity to move forward fast, the clarity is what is most needed right now in today. And so thank you so much. If you are listening to this on the broadcast, don't go away. We have another amazing conversation lined up for you right after this.